Hello, everyone. This is Will and Sen Miao, and today we will be presenting our critique about this graph. The purpose of this graph is to illustrate some general information about all the pandemic across the history of human history, and specifically the graph illustrates a flowing story from the very distant past up until the current time. And it also visually displays the size and appearance of the pandemic particles and the death toll of the pandemic together. And in terms of the content, from the graph, one can see that the first pandemic happened as early as 165 BC, which happens to be the Antonine Plague. It also killed about 5 million people. And one can also see that the most recent virus happens to be the COVID-19, which took place in 2019 and then has killed about 3.9 million up until now. In this graph, one can also see that there doesn't seem to be like a relationship between the size of the particle and the time as it progresses, because you can see that as time increases, the particle size doesn't necessarily decrease. It doesn't necessarily increase linearly. And from this second graph, one can also draw the relationship that as the particle size increase, there seems to be a relationship between the size of the particle as well as the number of people it can kill.
The structure of the graph is a whiteboard with the time as the vertical axis and presents pandemics as the balls resembling the shape of viruses. As labeled, the lower on the axis, the more recent the pandemic happened. The size of the balls reflect the death toll of this pandemic. The larger the ball size, the higher the death toll of this pandemic was. Audiences could identify larger ones easily, allowing them to notice those pandemics which had higher death tolls and thus deserve more attention from audiences. The structure of this visualization presents the death tolls of pandemics and the time when they occurred clearly to the audiences. The second part of the graph works as a legend, which ranks the pandemics according to their death tolls and provides some history backgrounds of those most influential ones. In terms of format, the sharp contrast between sizes of the balls representing different pandemics and the correlation between physical distances of them from the audiences and the distance between the time the pandemic occurred and now make the graph great in terms of formatting. The names of these pandemics and the time when they occurred and their death tolls are listed to the left of the whiteboard. The audiences could either view the pandemics in order of time from the first part, or they can see them in order of their influences from the second part. All these traits allow the graph to communicate with audiences effectively. And here is our critique of this graph. Thank you.
Thank you.